What's up guys, this is Ray and welcome to Asia Filmist, and today we'll be talking about the 2000 anime film Blood, The Last Vampire, directed by Kitakubo Hiroyuki and featuring the voice talents of Kudo Yuki, who's actually more of a film and stage actress, but here she lends her voice to the lead role, mainly because she's bilingual in both Japanese and English, and you might have seen her in a few films that were produced in America as well. But this movie spawned a couple anime series. I've only seen one of them, Blood Plus. I think there was a second anime series that got spun off, but from what I understand, these anime series aren't canonically connected to this movie. It's kind of a standalone. Like each series or each spin-off is kind of on its own thing, and that includes this movie. This movie has its own story, and the only similarities that this movie has with the TV shows are the characters that it features. So the story of Blood, the Last Vampire, it takes place in the 1960s, and we get introduced to the lead character Saya, who's voiced by Kudo Yuki. And we don't know exactly how old she is. Her age is kind of kept a mystery, but all that we know is that she's very pissed off, that she carries around a katana, and she hunts down chiropterans, which are these bat-like beasts, demons, what have you, that hunt and feast on humans. And she works with the US government, but it's hinted throughout the story that she is actually the last vampire, as the title hints at, and that she is one of the last original ones. So Saya and her partners in the US government hunt down these chiropterans, and their hunt takes them to Yokota Air Base in Japan. There she must infiltrate a high school, disguising herself as a student in order to locate and hunt down the chiropterans, which are rumored or reported to be hiding out in the school. So that's the gist of the story. So as far as the positives are concerned, well, I totally dig Blood, the Last Vampire's animation and art direction. Everything is dark and gritty, and the way everything moves, it's quite fluid. And when you mix all those elements together, you get this pretty rich anime film filled with dark and gritty overtones that really bring this horrific atmosphere to life. I also dug the creature designs. I mean, the chiropterans, they look like stuff straight out of nightmares. I mean, like, they have long faces like a horse. Their bodies are kind of like bats, I guess. And you know, the kind of bat-like creatures you can that usually vampires are portrayed with transforming into when they still try to keep their humanoid shape, and they're just gigantic. So you mix all that, you get something straight out of hell. And you know how I mentioned earlier that there are a lot of dark and gritty overtones in the art direction? Well, that brings out a lot of really creepy and eerie moments that are scattered throughout the film. One scene in particular, which I quite enjoyed, was when two high school girls were in the nurse's room. Like one of them faints, and so her friend brings her to the nurse's office. I think she faints. I can't exactly remember how she came to be in the nurse's office. Anyway, it turns out that these two high schoolers are actually chiropterans in disguise, because they can disguise themselves as humans. And when they communicate with each other, they open their mouths like they're talking, but you don't actually hear any words come out. And the only sound that comes out in the whole scene is the nurse talking. Well, she thinks she's talking to the students, but she ends up just really talking to herself. And so while she's kind of chatting to herself, these two are plotting something that which we don't know, but they're talking as if they're having a full conversation, and stuff like that makes this movie spooky. I also dug the world that this story took place in, as well as the world building, so that we can get to know kind of everything that's happening. I think for the most part, it's quite simple. You know, as I mentioned earlier, it's about a vampire who's hunting down these vampiric demons. They're not exactly vampires, although they share the same traits as vampires. But it's filled with enough mystery and unanswered questions that make you want to dive into it a little bit more. And I think that's something that makes the anime spin-offs a lot interesting, just because they kind of take their own interpretation of Saya and the chiropterans, and they expand on it in their own way. And I don't know, there's something, when it comes to anime, there's something about a little girl with a katana. I mean, I think the trope is portrayed more than often in anime, but I just can't help whenever it comes up. I mean, I think in the context of this story, it just makes sense, because the only way to kill a chiropteran is to make it lose a lot of blood in a short amount of time, because if you just shoot it with a regular gun, it heals almost instantly because the wound is so small. But you need something as heavy duty as a katana to just slice it open and let all that blood come out at once. I mean, I think it's justifiable enough to me. As far as the negatives for Blood the Lost Vampire, I thought the time length was a weak point. I mean, it's only like 15 minutes long. But I would have loved more. I mean, at least 90 minutes, I think, would have given this story a more fleshed out world. And I mentioned earlier that the world and the world building was a strong point, but I definitely would have liked to see more. I would have loved to see more exploration on Saya and her relationship with David, who's kind of her go-to guy in the U.S. government, the guy she communicates with the most. I mean, when you look at the way they talk to each other, it seems like they've been through a lot, but you only get glimpses as to the kind of things they might have experienced together. And, and that being said, because of the short time length, I thought there was the character development wasn't all that great in this story. I mean, for the most part, Saya is the same kind of character she starts the movie with. Like at the end, she's the same kind of character. She's just overall, she stays a bitch, albeit a badass one, throughout the majority of the story. She doesn't change at all. She doesn't go through any kind of character development. And for some it might be okay. It's not bad to see a mean-ass girl killing demons with a sword. I think it's cool. But if you're looking for something more of a fleshed-out character, you won't find it here. And I thought the voice acting was just so-so. Granted, I think Kudo Yuki's voice acting wasn't that bad. But then the dialogue, for the most part, is about, I don't know the exact percentage, but I would say maybe 60% English and 40% Japanese, mainly because Saya is communicating to the U.S. government agents in English, but she's communicating to a lot of the students in the high school in Japanese. And I think Saya just speaks overall more English than Japanese. But when you get the English voice actors, they do a very subpar job. And the Japanese voice actors, they did great. I think that's just to be expected when it comes to Japanese voice acting. But overall, because of that, I think the voice acting overall was just okay. But overall, what did I think of Blood the Lost Vampire? I enjoyed it. I genuinely enjoyed it. As short as it is, I genuinely enjoyed it. It has enough violence to make me, want to enjoy something if I wanted to watch a horror movie. And if you want something fun to watch that you don't have to devote a whole lot of time to, this is a great movie to dive into. It's short and sweet, and it's definitely on my list of recommendations to watch, especially if you're looking for a creature feature this October. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Blood the Last Vampire. What did you guys think? What kind of questions did you guys have? Let me know in the comment section below. Please like, share, subscribe, follow me on Facebook and Twitter. And by all means, please support Asian Films on Patreon. It definitely helps the channel a lot. And by all means, please join our Discord server so you can chat with more fans about Asian cinema. All the links are down below in the description area. And yeah, that's about it for me, guys. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching. And hope to see you all again in the next video. Take it easy.